Public Relations. Edward L. Bernays. 1945. Narrated by Skeptical Waves. Part 2. Public Relations in Action. 22. Direct Mail, a Challenge to Research in Humanics. Ever since people began writing letters to each other at the dawn of history, direct mail has been one of the most important media for communicating ideas and affecting opinion. The ancient art of letter writing goes back to the 14th century BC, when the Egyptians mailed stone tablets to each other, and, in China, to the 12th century BC, when the edicts of the Zhou emperors were delivered by the postman. Our own intercolonial mail service was organized in 1692, although it was not until 1847 that the first United States postage stamp was issued. Today the United States Post Office handles 43 billion pieces of mail a year. Many of these are personal. But just as many, perhaps more, are sent out in direct mail campaigns by all kinds of individuals, organizations, and groups that employ this medium of communication to promote sales or advance a cause. This chapter, based on a survey made for the Mail Advertising Service Association of New York, attempts to analyze the public relations aspect of direct mail as a medium of persuasion. When the Mail Advertising Service Association of New York asked me to analyze the public relations aspects of direct mail, I decided to quote these experts to themselves. To accomplish this purpose, I used their own medium of communication, direct mail. The secretary of the association gave me a list of the larger users of the mails. To everyone on that list I wrote a letter stating my purpose and asking for his individual wisdom on a number of important problems that concern direct mail practitioners. I received many long, interesting replies, as was to be expected from those who use direct mail successfully. To probe the mystery of effective direct mail further, I supplemented my written questions by personal conversations with top practitioners in the field, like Nicholas Samstag and Frank Pratt of Time Incorporated. Then I reread the literature of the field, books, magazine articles, and pamphlets such as Henry Hoke's Entertaining and Meaningful Dogs That Climb Trees. Finally, I added, subtracted, and interpreted all this in terms of my own 35 years of public relations experience in using the mails. Here I shall set down these findings briefly. To begin with, the experts disagreed. Most of them appeared to belong to two main schools of thought about direct mail. The first of these might be called the formula school. In our scientific, mechanistic civilization, many of us try to transfer the formula idea from pure and applied science to our human relations. Hence this school of thought maintains that there are basic rules of direct mail which can be generally applied to its successful operation. This group believes in the kind of perceptual technique with which we are familiar in many phases of American life, the use of such maxims as the 10 rules for foot health, the 5-point program for safety on the highways, and so on. This school starts with the premise that all you need for success is to follow the right set of rules. For example, one representative of this school wrote me that the physical appearance of a letter is the most important factor, because a letter is not even read, or at least has 2 strikes against it, if the appearance is poor. Second, and equally important, he said, were the stationery and method of reproduction, because it is so important to create a friendly mood with warm color and quality paper. Content he listed definitely third, because the preceding qualities must be good if content is to be read in a receptive mood. The content is important because it must carry the interest of readers long enough to tell the story and move them to action, to get the reader to send in the return card. Fourth in importance, he listed techniques to facilitate response so as to create speed of action. Fifth was the class of mail used. But this, the respondent said, was important only when speed in getting returns is necessary. Many of the replies I received fell into this formula school of thought, but most of the respondents who believed in formulas agreed that the most important factor in direct mail is content. Physical appearance was second. This was followed by method of reproduction, class of mail, facility of response, and stationery. There is a second and equally articulate school of thought about direct mail. Its most vocal member is Nicholas Samstag, a brilliant practitioner of the art. This school believes that all formalizing about content or appeal is largely poppycock. According to Mr. Samstag, effective direct mail stems from the application of the technician to his work. Successful mailing results from a blend of experience, skills, and aptitudes working on 3 basic principles. 1. Know what to do and do it. 2. Have no inhibitions and try everything. 3. Test and test and test. The third principle was confirmed by Boyce Morgan of the Kiplinger Washington Agency, who said, "The only safe thing to do in direct mail is to test and test again, and keep on testing until you know from experience how your own product can best be sold by mail." This school, which substitutes experimentation for formula, maintains there is no royal road to a 3% or a 22% or a 45% return. A 4-page letter may wow the recipient one day and not the next. A letter was a failure yesterday? Tomorrow it may be a success because events and conditions will have changed. One of the most effective mailings ever sent out by Time was 1,000,000 letters with charred edges. The edges of the letters had been rubbed with kerosene and then burned. When the recipient took the crumbling page from the envelope, he read, "A Nazi flame is licking at the coasts of England." That letter was a brilliant stroke at the time it was used. The followers of this philosophy believe in know-how backed by experience and activated by invention. They do not deprecate rules or formulas. They know them, but say, so what? Formulas are dangerous, because even if you follow them, you may have a poor piece of direct mail. And then what? Formulas become part of a person's thinking rather than tools in themselves. Some of my respondents replied in ways which fitted neither the one philosophy nor the other. Richard Simon, of Simon & Schuster, wrote, "A product must have a this means me appeal. It must be helpful. As publishers, we have found it impossible to sell literary books by direct mail. The only books that we can sell by mail are those that perform a service for the reader or else those which show that a book which was once at a higher price is now at a lower price." Simon & Schuster also stressed the importance of content. They told me that one of their most successful direct-by-mail campaigns was for their treasury of art masterpieces. They ascribe its success to two things. 1. People with culture and money became more and more interested in art during the latter part of the 1930s. And, 2. A book which reproduces art masterpieces as well as possible and with the greatest authority back of them, at the lowest possible price, does well. The book had the authority of Thomas Craven, who had written books on art, but far more, it contained work by the great artists from the Renaissance to modern times. The need to put direct mail on a more scientific basis is shown by the deviation in percentage of responses received from successful mailings. For example, the McGraw-Hill Publishing Company reported that in 1930 they received a 22% return in subscription orders at $3 each from a direct mail campaign on their magazine Electronics. The Grolier Society, in their most successful campaign, for their Book of Knowledge Annual, received reservation orders from 80% of their mailing. The Penn Mutual Life Insurance Company, in their best campaign, received a 22% response. In their letters to me, the users of direct mail suggested a number of ways to make it more effective. Among the improvements many of them felt to be most needed were, first, lower costs both in production and postage, and, second, greater accuracy and more careful selection of lists. By lists, I do not mean merely blocks of names taken out of indexes, directories, and mass-produced books. Mailing lists represent the result of careful sociological studies of the particular market groups to be reached. A third improvement cited as necessary was in mailing company services, as, for example, automatic collating and inserting. In addition, some organizations listed improved letter content, fresh approaches, analysis of recipients, and so on, improved government service, lower postage, greater speed in handling, and a few mechanical improvements, as in addressing and fill-in. But would these suggested improvements really do the job of making direct mail efforts as effective as they should be? Doesn't the answer to this problem really lie in a more fundamental approach? Users of direct mail must recognize that they are specialists in communication, not artisans in mechanics of reproduction. They must undertake research in two highly important fields of human knowledge: 1. The art and science of communication by mail, and 2. Research into the nature of human beings. Communication includes language, lists, letterheads, envelopes, printing, addressing, testing, and mailing. Human relations research includes the study of emotions, character, and mental characteristics of the recipients. Communication as a whole is one of the major problems facing the world today. In one sense, our civilization is in a race between communication and chaos. We know that what we call society is only a network of partial understanding of people by people held together by communication, in which the mails play an important part. Every transaction between buyer and seller involves some form of communication. We have come a long way in our physical ability to communicate with one another, from stone tablets, drum beats, message sticks, and pebble markings. But despite speeded-up technology, the psychological barriers remain. How can we most effectively use language to make ourselves understood? At best, words are poor substitutes for meanings. Language often distorts. It is not objective. The science of semantics has resulted from a basic effort to clarify meanings. Here are two examples of communication research that illustrate these points. One of my friends, a greeting card manufacturer, recently cooperated with the University of Chicago in a study of the meaning and impact of the words and picture symbols on greeting cards. It was found that certain conventional symbols for Mother's Day, Christmas, and other ceremonial occasions were not necessarily the most potent. As a result, his business has been completely revolutionized and has become even more successful. The second example is Rudolf Flesch's readability studies. Mr. Flesch proved conclusively that many books and newspapers are written above the heads of their intended readers, and a number of publishers have put his findings to good account. There must be other fields of communication research that direct mail users could profitably explore. In this research, universities, colleges, and foundations would doubtless be eager to cooperate. The second field of research I recommend is the study of man's behavior. The sociology, psychology, and other social science departments of American and foreign universities are studying the nature of man, his attitudes, his characteristics, in short, why we behave like human beings. Much of this knowledge is still in doctoral theses tucked away in libraries or in obscure learned journals with small circulation. It should not be allowed to remain unused. One of the greatest services direct mail users could render would be to rescue it from its present obscurity. To be sure, we recognize and apply some of our present-day knowledge of the factors motivating human beings. But we have only scratched the surface. With the knowledge available today, it is neither visionary nor impractical to seek to determine scientifically the drives and needs of those to whom direct mail is sent. Their great variety and complexity need not be discouraging. One can strike at common basic factors. For example, a sense of insecurity is almost universal today. In some people it manifests itself in snobism, in great ambition, in a drive for power. Aggressiveness is usually an overcompensation for insecurity, and such aggressiveness can often be channeled through letters as well as other means to fight an evil. Some men need admiration and some find relief in gregariousness. Some are expansive and have a compelling urge to express themselves. Others are driven by exhibitionism, they have to attract notice. Some are egotists with a strong belief in their qualifications for leadership. Some are martyrs and eager to align themselves with unpopular causes. Some are contrary-minded and take the other side of every proposition. Some are extremely suggestible. Many people are ready to go along with a good cause, for innumerable Americans are altruistic and kind and respond to an appeal to their social consciousness. They want to help worthy ideas, causes, and people. But they have to be individually reached, and using the results of research in human relations will enable you better to employ the techniques of communication. That is why direct mail needs research that will broaden our knowledge both of communications and of human behavior, and make available the present findings. Carrying on direct mail is practicing an applied social science. Business conducts research in chemistry, physics and other physical sciences and applies the results to everyday practices. No paper manufacturer would attempt to operate without knowing down to a decimal point the amount of acid necessary for bleaching. But there is a terrific time lag in employing the techniques of the social sciences. Direct mail covers many aspects of communications and of human behavior. It involves the whole process of engineering the consent of those whom it is trying to influence in a highly competitive civilization. It should receive the benefits of the most scientific methods in order to carry out its social function most effectively.